Hello, soulmates. Welcome to class once more. If this is the first time you are coming across my channel, thank you for joining my channel. So, in today's class, we are going to make this very beautiful short baby gown with ruffles, and we're going to use Mikado fabric. So, I'm using gold Mikado 1.5 yards for this. So, I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two, and I'm also measuring out my 1 inch for that will serve as my borderline. So all my measurements will start from that 1 inch. So I'm just going to connect it together, then we can start the making of this gown. So the next thing I want to do is to measure out my shoulder. My shoulder divided by 2. The shoulder is 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. I will just measure it. So I'm going to extend that shoulder divided by 2. I'm going to extend it down also, and I use my ruler and just connect it together. So after doing that, I just realized that I didn't tell you people to subscribe. Please do, so that my channel can grow. So after doing that, I'm going to come down by 0.5 inch for the shoulder slope. So I'm just going to connect that to the center front of the fabric. So I'm going to come down by 5.2. That is my bust divided by 6 plus 1. So the bust divided by 6 plus 1 in this instance is 5.2. That's why I came down by 5.2. So I'm just connecting it. So I'm going to measure my waistline and my hip line. Since the gathers will start at the hip line, so I'm just going to measure my waistline and my hip line. So after doing that, I'm going to use a ruler to just make it bold so that you can see what I'm doing for the hip line first. Then I'm also going to do the same thing for the waistline. So after we are done with that, the next thing we want to do now is to measure our bust divided by 4 is 6.25. The bust is 25. So divided by 4 is 6.25. The bust and the waist is the same thing. I know you know it's for children, so their tummy is usually very big. So the bust and the waist is the same thing, it's 6.25. And the hips in this instance is 30. So that's 7.5. I've not added any allowance here, so I'm just going to connect those 3 points together first. I've not added allowance. You can add your straight up, but I've not added mine yet. So I'm just going to connect it. That connecting it, I'm just going to blend in that waistline so it will not be sharp because they are children. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 inches round. I'll add 2 inches on the hip line, 2 inches on the waistline, then 2 inches on the shoulder, the bust line. So that will be my allowance, 2 inches. Do you understand? Because we are going to turn it with lining. So that's why I'm doing it like that. So I'm just going to connect it. After doing it now, I'm not going to measure the distance of that arm length. I will add the slope to it, then I'll get the midpoint. I'll go in by 0.25 for the front. I'll just use my frame and connect it to the bust line. So I'll just connect it around. You know, if it's adult, it's 0.75, but since she's a child, I'm using I came in by 0.25. So for the neck, I'm going to come in by 2.5 inch, and the depth will be 2 inches because I don't want it to be too wide or too low. So what I'm using for the front neckline, I'm going to use it for the back. So I'm just going to cut it off. So after cutting it off, I'm going to fold my fabric again and measure 1.5 inch. That will act as my zipper allowance. So I'm just going to place my front on top of it. So it's going to start from that 1.5 inch I measured, which is my zipper allowance. So I'm just doing it very well, arranging it very well. After doing that, I'm not cut it exactly. However, the armhole, it will not go in. Did you notice? The armhole did not go in. So I'm not going to push it in the way I did for the front. So I'm just going to mark it so I will know where the front is and where the back is. And after doing that, the next I want to do is to get my gathers. You know, it's 2 layers of gathers. So the first layer is 10 inch. I'm using 10 inch. Now let me explain something to you. Since I'm using Mikado, if you notice the style, the gathers is not much and it is deliberate because if you make it too full, your needle will break it. You will find it very difficult to make it since it's two-step and Mikado is a thick fabric. So ensure that your gathers, the fabric you're using for gathers is not too full. So you can use your hip measurement times 3 to come out well, and it will not give you problems in sewing it because Mikado is a thick fabric. So I'm using my hips times 3. For the shorter one, I'm using 6 inches. So for the long one, I use 10, and the shorter one, I use 6 inches. So I'll go ahead and cut all the lining pieces for the front, for the back, just cutting everything so all the lining will be in place. So this is it. So I've done that now. So I'll just fold it aside. Now it's time for us to sew our clothes. So I'm going to bring the fabric now. I'm going to bring the lining, also the front part. I'll use the front part to explain to you people. I want this to be very neat, so I'm going to use hemming gum for the shoulder also. So you just put your white hemming gum. However, when you are doing it, don't start from the edge. What I mean is this, you put your hemming gum and you now sew it normal, half an inch. So you are going to do the other side. So I will explain to you when I'm ironing what I mean by not starting from the edge. I'm going to explain it. So now I've already gone ahead to turn the longer part with lining. Can you see it? I want to explain something. So after you've turned it with lining, you are now going to open it up and top stitch on the lining part. Anything I do for the longer part of that gathers, I'm going to do for the back, the shorter part. So I'll open it up and top stitch on the gathers. So I'll do that now. Come and show you. So now can you see it? I've turned my fabric with lining. However, I left the one part of the back so that I will explain to you very well. After turning it with lining, I top stitched on the lining. After doing that, can you see I top stitch on the lining? After doing that, so you just turn it. That's for people who don't know how to turn with line. That's what I'm explaining. If you know how to, you can just forward it. So on the zipper allowance, I'll just hold it by half an inch. The other side, hold it by half an inch. Then after doing that, can you see I've top stitched on it already? So in order for it to be neat, you are going to bring the two raw edges of that ruffles. You open it up. The Mikado side will be facing the Mikado side and lining part will be facing each other. You will now draw a straight. You will now sew it straight. After sewing it straight, by the time you open it, you can see that those rough edges is inside and it will form a wide. They will not be opening. That's what I mean. Can you see it? So they will not be opening. So any rough edges will be inside. I hope you understand what I'm doing. So after doing that, if you top stitch it, if you top stitch on the lining part, it will be very easy for you. So now you are going to pull the lining part up so that the Mikado will be down. The lining will not be showing. So you're just going to close it up, sew it on top round. So after doing that, now I've gone ahead to mark my allowance. So I left 0.5 inch on both sides so that the gown will be a bit free. So I will sew it. Then I've also gone ahead to pin my 1 inch allowance for the zipper allowance. It's 1.5 I left earlier. I've used half inch to turn the lining in. So now I'm going to open up my shoulder. This was what I was explaining. You see that I didn't close everything with hemming gum. That's why it is still open. If I had used hemming gum for the edge, it should have sealed it up. Do you understand? So it's when I'm done, I'll now put hemming gum on the edge so that it will seal up. So I just open it, sew my shoulder by half an inch. When I'm done, I'll give it a good press. I've gone ahead to also sew the gathers material. I've done for the front and the longer part and the shorter part. I don't know why I'm saying front and back. And I've ironed it too. Can you see what I was saying? So now you are going to target where you joined it. Place the front on the back and just sew it together so that it's easy for you to gather. So now that I've joined the longer part and the shorter part together, so what you are going to do, you are just going to do gathers around. Like I said earlier, don't make it too large. If it's too bulky, you will find it very difficult to sew it because it's Mikado. So this is our result. Can you see how beautiful it is? So now I'm just going to open up the zipper part. I'll remove the pins and go and I'll add the zipper to it. So now it's time for us to cut our hand. So the hand now, the first thing we want to do is to bring out 1 inch because I want to lining the hand and obviously I don't want the lining to show. So the Mikado will be longer than the lining by 1 inch for the hand. So this one, that's the 1 inch I'm bringing out now. I'm using free hand, so I'm just going to measure the full length of this hand, the full length of the sleeve and just curve it in. Meanwhile, I'll make sure that it will be excess, like the round sleeve will be more than what I'm measuring on the gown itself so that I'll be able to gather it small. So I'm just going to measure my arm width and connect it together. Like I said earlier, it will be bigger than the normal sleeve because there will be a bit of gather. So I'll just connect it and sew it. So now I'm notching the upper part and the down part so that it will help me when I'm attaching the lining to it. So I'm just going to notch it now. So after doing that, now I'm now going to fold my fabric into four for the lining part. Can you see it now? So I'm not cutting it. When I'm cutting the lining, I'm pushing it down by that 1 inch that I left earlier, so that by the time I'm done, the Mikado will be longer than the lining by 1 inch. So I will just go ahead and cut the remaining parts the same, except the length. So the lining will be shorter than the Mikado by 1 inch. So after cutting it out now, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to notch the lining also, and I'm going to notch the upper part of the lining and the lower part of the lining also. So let me show you how it looks like before I'm going to attach the sleeve. So I'll just open it up like this. This is how it looks like. Can you see it? So I'm just going to sew the down part of both the lining and the Mikado and turn it. Can you see it? So by the time I turn it, you can see that the Mikado will not go inside. So when the person wears the gown, the lining will not be showing down. So I'm just going to take a leftover fabric and just do a small butterfly ruffle, just small design, and this is the result.